Okay, quick disclaimer before we get started. The Blockmates podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. The information and opinions expressed on the podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Blockmates or its affiliates. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Blockmates and its affiliates are not liable for any losses or damages incurred as a result of the reliance on the information or opinions expressed on this podcast. All right, we're back. We got some of the core contributors from Aladdin DAO here, and I'm going to be completely honest. This is partially because I've been really interested in one of the recent products that they've released, and I think I've kind of got a grasp on it, but I want to make 1,000% sure. So what better way to do it to have an open conversation. But guys, how are you both doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having us on, Grant.
Thanks, Grant. Big pleasure to be here with you to talk about FX protocol.
Awesome. Yeah, you guys are welcome anytime. I just love seeing people build really innovative, and there's so many kind of copy pastas out there. It's kind of a little bit tiring at times, So when people are building cool shit, you've got a blank canvas as well, so you can come back on whenever you guys feel like it. So I want to just kind of set the scene a little bit and just kind of give people a bit of like a brief background on both of you guys, like how you've got to this point of where you are personally, and then we can start getting into kind of the multitude of products that kind of Aladdin are building. And I want to kind of dig down into fFX more specifically, but yeah, I'd love to start with Subli and just kind of get to, how many bangs to the head did it take for you to come and work in this space full time?
Oh no, I'm not full time. I mean, I have a real IRL job and a very dense family life. So I'm doing crypto on my free time, which take all my free time, even more than I can allocate. So basically, I started DeFi 2 years ago, and I started basically learning curve and convex ecosystems. That was the first thing I dig into. Which is not the easiest, but basically I love math, I love analytics, and curve convex is a perfect topic for that. Since then, I've familiarized myself with different protocols, and I ended up in summer 2022 jumping on a community call of Aladdin DAO when they were launching Concentrator, our first product. Which is a yield optimizer built on top of convex and frax, and basically, mainly convex. And since then, I follow the progress and the growth of the project. Aladdin created CLever, a second project, and I was onboarded as a booster. Pretty sure that we're going to talk about it as well during the live. And a couple of weeks ago, I think maybe 1 month from now, I got just a request from the team say, okay, we are going to build at least one more project, which is FX, and we want to onboard, let's say, new contributors. And since you are there since our very beginning, jump in. And that's it, where I just become basically very naturally and smoothly a core contributor and helping the DAO on the DAO to DAO communication, and as well, let's say, connection with other DeFi protocols.
Nice. Who are yourself, Kmet?
Yeah, so my story is actually fairly similar to Subli. I got involved kind of in crypto basically very early 2021. And towards the end of that year, started getting into DeFi. I kept seeing VECRV pop up, and I was like, what are all these letters? What does this mean? How can I make more money? And I think like everybody. And so just started doing, just reading everything I could about the Curve ecosystem. And one day it just kind of clicks for you, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely incredible. And of course, once you start going down that route, you start going down the convex route, and that's even better. And then you start learning about Vodium and bribes, and you're like, man, this is fantastic. And but you know, at the time, Votium, you had to go and vote for everything individually, and you just got like this whole mess of tokens. And so naturally you start going down the route of, okay, well, what's, you know, these auto compounders, these look kind of neat with the union. And then after that, I saw something pop up on Twitter for Concentrator, which was basically like a yield maximizer and optimizer. And I think their hook at the time was like earn 50% more on your convex rewards with CVX CRV. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, you know, my wildest dreams come true. And so I got you know, I jumped into that, learned everything I could about that, and then you know, just started getting involved with Aladdin in terms of like, you know, just reaching out to team members, paying attention on the Discord, participating there. And then they had their CLever launch, which was like, you know, you could borrow against your future convex earnings, briber earnings. And I was like, oh my God, this is like, it's like everything I've ever dreamed of is like coming true with these guys. And so I just became more and more enveloped into the ecosystem, just because they kept building projects that I wanted. That were like, it was everything. It was like, if you're like a curve convex maxi, it was like, you know, ultra maxi stuff that they were building. And so I just became absolutely enamored with what they were doing. The team is great. They were super nice, very intelligent people, but also, you know, very approachable. And so I just sort of like kind of took on a role of just sort of like inserting myself into like, you know, helping out with the Discord and, you know, taking notes on the community call and things like that. And so same thing with Subli. Like, they just kind of one day were like, hey, you know, you're basically doing the role now. Do you want to be a part of this and help us build stuff? And I was like, absolutely. So that's kind of how I became a core contributor with Aladdin DAO, and now we're very excited to sort of start to roll out FX protocol. So it's been a fun ride. Lots to do, but it's all been very enjoyable.
That's incredible. I love, if you were to tell someone, kind of friends and family that weren't in this space, about how you can onboard into a DAO by just being a contributor, just kind of passively doing it, and then there's opportunities to, you know, kind of effectively join as a core contributor, they'd be like, what are you talking about? This is batshit crazy. But it's incredible for me to, like, it completely baffles me seeing people organize at scale, particularly with DAOs, particularly with people you've never met before. You're just talking to them in Discord or Telegram, whatever it is. People struggle to do it when they're face to face with everybody at work in like a day-to-day job, like when they're sat talking next to the coffee machine or in meetings all day with everyone. So it completely fascinates me when you see a great DAO moving in, all aligned in the right direction, like Aladdin is doing. Some people just haven't cracked it, and I think what you guys have got going on is a really, really good example of, when you get it right, this is what it can actually look like. So kudos. It's very, very impressive.
Yeah, it's been interesting too, because essentially Aladdin has had all their growth during the bear market. And what's fascinating about that, and that I've kind of discovered, and Subli, maybe you can comment on it as well, is the bear market has been absolutely terrible for my tokens, but absolutely fantastic in terms of my involvement with crypto communities and learning about crypto, because all the noise is gone. It's all signal. You get to talk to people, meet people that, you know, you in a bull market you never get within, you know, their DMs or 100 feet with them or whatever. But you know, the bear market actually has like some really, really valuable opportunities in it if you're willing to just stick around and, you know, hang out. And so you know, it's kind of like win-win.
Absolutely. This is when the gems in it. Sorry, go on, Subli.
Yeah, I mean, Grant, I'm pretty sure that you know Nick Dracon. I mean,
yeah, of course, love Nick. Yeah.
Yeah. 1 year ago, he said, "Look at the number of successful traders who earn 6-7 digits a year. Now look at the successful builders in the world, and not only crypto. He was talking globally, who are earning the same amount of money per year. So basically, what you end up saying is that you have much more builders that succeed than traders. And as you say, Kmet, the bear market has been incredible for me in terms of wealth, in terms of communication, in terms of connection. And now, I was no one year ago, and now I'm a co-contributor of a, let's say, big brain team. I mean, it's just incredible. And as Kmet said, the team of Aladdin DAO, they are giga intelligent, really, uh, giga friendly, and giga open minded as well. And I couldn't I couldn't have dreamed, let's say, better to contribute to that project. It's really, I wouldn't say it was a dream, but it was, let's say, I think my main target at one point is that, oh, if I start working with that with Aladdin DAO, I think I could say to myself, yeah, I succeeded. And so yeah, here it is.
That's awesome. Yeah, Nick's so correct on a lot of his kind of views, and we had him on here recently, and we were just kind of saying about when people think of or hear the phrase "there's inefficiencies in crypto," people immediately think, yeah, the markets are completely inefficient. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But like the way I kind of like to look at it is basically what you were just saying there. The opportunity for people who want to build and kind of innovate and fix problems, because there's a lot of issues in this space, and not just kind of create solutions to problems that don't exist. I think that's where the real inefficiencies can be really captured. And I think when you can band together as like a really good bunch all contributing to like a aligned cause like Aladdin's doing, I think that's as you say, in the depths of a bear market, that's when you see the true gems shine through.
And it's all trying to solve an existing problem, as you said. And I think this is what FX protocol is doing, because as you said during the introduction, we are in a fork time. We have liquidity fork, we have GMX forks all over the places, and there are very few projects who are really innovating, bringing disruptive innovation. And I think this is what FX protocol is doing right now.
Yeah, should we get into it then? So who wants to give us a kind of high level of, and can we just get this out there? Is it F of X or is it FX?
We've even had people call it function protocol.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, we internally we call it F of X. But we've heard FX. But yeah, it's pretty much F of X is kind of what we call it. And Subli, I'll go ahead and describe it if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So essentially, what FX does is it basically takes native ETH and splits it into two tokens. And those two tokens, one of them is fETH, which stands for fractional ETH, which is basically a token that moves at 1/10 of the price movements of ETH. So it has a beta of 0.1. So it's a very stable asset. It kind of floats around a little bit, kind of wanders around, but not very much in relation to ETH's price movements. The other token is xETH, and I kind of like to think of it as like excitable ETH. And basically what that is it basically absorbs all of the volatility that's been taken away from fETH. And so all the remainder of the price movement for ETH goes into xETH. And that leverage can change based on how much xETH has been minted in relation to fETH. And so you can have leverage anywhere from 1 all the way up to, technically it's infinite, but after about 4, we have like some risk modules that kick in. Mm-hmm. But so you can think of xETH as basically a zero cost perpetual contract on ETH that you can just hold in your wallet, or you can go and take it and use it in some other protocol for whatever sort of degen stuff you want to do. But that's sort of the very basics of the protocol, and it's very flexible. I mean, the intention of FX in the future is to be able to take any type of collateral, any type of token, and split it into a high volatility and a low volatility, or kind of however you want, because as long as one token is accepting the volatility of the other, it's exceptionally flexible in that regard. So that's essentially what FX does, and our hope is that it's very successful and offers an opportunity to basically be an alternative to traditional stable coins.
Yeah. Also, that's an awesome explanation. The way my smooth brain was remembering which one was the kind of higher volatility token and one was the more stable one was xETH. I was imagining you always kind of lever up with X's. You might have insert NXETH and then the other one was fETH, and I was thinking maybe like fETH because it's a lot more stable. That's how my smooth brain works. So you've just got an insight to who you're talking to.
Exactly. Yeah, that works perfectly. Yeah, absolutely. Other than the fiat, we're trying to avoid the fiat thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you wouldn't like that one.
Yeah.
I was talking to the Gearbox team recently, and they've banned the word under collateralized and they just call it the U word now.
Oh boy, yeah.
But so what does the user flow, the user journey look like for someone they've got some ETH and they're interested in trying it out? What do they have to do effectively, like to gain exposure to fETH or xETH?
So right now, in the immediate future, we're this Thursday we'll be starting a test net on Sepolia, and they can go to fx.aladdin.club, and I believe that's the website, and they can go and basically they'll be able to mint fETH and xETH from Sepolia ETH, and we're going to have that open for about 2 weeks, and so people can do that, but. And then after 2 weeks, assuming everything works fine, it'll go on to mainnet. And so the intention is basically it's a very simple interface, very simple protocol. You go there, you have some ETH, you can mint it, you can redeem it for one token, for either token. Eventually in the future, the way that we see it is that process will probably be abstracted away by bots, and people will pretty much interact only with the liquidity pools that we have available. And so, it's a very small fee that it'll be minted for, about 0.5% for mint or redeem. So it's very capital efficient. It's not like opening a CDP or anything like that. And that's the whole intention of the protocol, is to make it a very scalable, very easy to use design.
Yeah, that's interesting to have that kind of fee structure as well, because particularly recently when I've been trying to look for on-chain perps or anything like that to kind of lever up, and some of the fees are getting completely out of hand, and you're looking at your kind of profit and loss, and then when you take fees off, it's just like, Jesus Christ, I'm no better off. I should have just sat on my hands. And then again, for kind of CDPs, sometimes obviously depending on demand and things like that, it's as you say, the minting and redeeming of them can be quite expensive. But I want to kind of touch into if I've got some ETH, and let's say I want to mint 50% in xETH and 50% in fETH, what's kind of happening there with regards to the ratio in the underlying pool? So if there's an imbalance, like more people have got xETH and fewer people have got fETH, like what's the kind of dynamic at play there, and how does the pool kind of effectively rebalance itself so there's equal counterparty to people who want to take on the other side of that?
Okay, like Kmets, if you're sure, okay, I can describe slightly our risk management.
Yeah, I think I'll tell you what. Right before you get to that, let me just kind of say this. So xETH and fETH kind of like operate independently a little bit for the most part. Your xETH is going to be, the way to think of the protocol in general is that it's like a mortgage on a house. Okay, it's like instead of having everybody taking their own collateralized debt position, we've done one gigantic one for everybody in the entire protocol. And so basically the way to think of it, if I like to use a mortgage analogy, is the ETH that goes in as collateral is basically acting as like the value of the home itself, and then the debt is the fETH. So that's your mortgage. And then the difference between those two would be like your equity in your home, And that is what xETH is. So you can think of it as like as the value of your home fluctuates, the mortgage itself kind of stays pretty stable. And so it's always the equity that changes up or down. And so with same thing with fETH protocol is the as the value of ETH goes up and down, the value of fETH kind of like stays the same, or the native asset value is what we refer to it in the white paper as. And then what you can think of as like the market cap for xETH changes, quite dramatically. And so because of that, we do have these risk management modules that we've enacted to make sure that there's always enough xETH to absorb the price volatility of ETH to keep fETH pretty stable. So Subli, yeah, if you want to kind of dovetail on that and kind of talk about those a
Honestly,
little bit.
Kmet, you are so into it. I mean, just continue. I love listening to you. I mean, honestly, each time
So good at explaining.
each time you're describing FX, each time really, I love it. So please go ahead. I'm just having a great moment listening to you.
Sure. Yeah, I'm totally happy to. Yeah. Okay. So essentially, what under normal conditions, Grant, like you were talking about, like if you are to have, say, fETH protocol, there's like, say, 1,000 ETH in the protocol. There's 500 ETH that have been, basically split up into fETH. And so to start off the protocol, each of the tokens are going to be $1 each. Okay. And so, in the reserve, there might be 500 ETH that are basically have mint, some quantity of fETH, and then there will be like 500 ETH that like mint some quantity of xETH. And so if they're in 50%, say, equal denominations within the protocol, then if, say, a ETH, native ETH itself, its price went up 10%, then fETH, its price only goes up 1%, right? So you're looking at $1.01. The price of xETH would go up 19% because it absorbs all the remainder of that price. And so we've put together a few diagrams and whatnot on our website, and that have been in our Discord and community calls. And so people are welcome to go kind of check those out. They're really helpful descriptions. It helps me a lot when I kind of go and draw it out and learn a lot.
I might have one of the GOAT threads here.
Let's see. Yeah. So that kind of gives you sort of like an idea of sort of the of what's going on. Yeah, there's a couple that our A team has created, and that's probably the best one there that kind of like exemplifies sort of what we're talking about there. So that's sort of a scenario in which there's plenty of xETH in the system, so it's absorbing plenty of volatility from the reserve ETH, and fETH is just sitting very happy. The best way I like to explain, like I'm 5, ELI 5, like the protocol, is that xETH acts is like the candy coating shell on an M&M, and so so you don't need very much candy coating to keep the candy from melting or whatnot. But if the candy coating was to become too thin, the whole candy, or it's not existent, the whole candy melts. And so if the price of reserve ETH was to drop enough such that xETH went to 0, then fETH would then have it would move completely in line with the reserve ETH price, the native ETH price, which we don't want that. That's bad. You would not have a stable coin, right? Or stable-like asset. So to prevent this from happening, fETH has a couple of reserve modules, and we spend a good portion of the white paper discussing this. Lots of thoughts gone into this. And so and Subli, you feel free to jump in whenever. But the first one is called what we call stability mode. It's the first risk module, and stability mode essentially acts as to slow down the protocol. It basically stops fETH from being minted. So if we go back to our mortgage, you're not like taking on more debt, and then it also encourages the minting of xETH. And it discourages the redeeming of xETH, so that we still have equity, and that kicks in at about 130% CR. And then After that one, I believe at 122%.
120.
120? Yeah.
Yeah.
You have what we call a user stability mode. And so user rebalance mode. At that point, basically what happens is the system basically starts encouraging users to basically come and redeem xETH. And I believe at that point we even start to I can't recall if the stability fee gets kicked in at that point, where basically there's some reserve that gets moved from fETH to xETH. I
No,
believe that's actually.
this is for the protocol rebalance. For the user rebalance, there is just an additional incentive for fETH holders to redeem.
There you go. Yeah. So that's it. And then so the next. So I was getting ahead of myself. When you get to the next step, which is it at 114%, Subli?
The last one is 114.
Yeah, at a collateral reserve ratio of 114. And by the way, those, based on sort of like the modeling that we've done, those first two risk modules should basically cover us in darn near every situation that the protocol would encounter, basically from 2017 to now. However, it goes even further than that, where basically we have a stability fee that gets enacted, which would basically kick in. I believe our parameters are 8%. An 8% fee gets kicked from the fETH holders to xETH, and it's basically done by moving in our reserve ETH. We basically just move some ETH from fETH to xETH, and so the entire idea is to basically sort of be like, okay, well, you're hanging on to your fETH and things are getting kind of dicey here for the protocol. We really need your help to basically, help stabilize things. And so if the users, if they're not doing enough, then the protocol will take it on. And the very last one we have is just sort of a recapitalization where ETH in the treasury or basically FFX tokens get minted and redeemed for ETH and then get uploaded to the protocol. That would be like, oh gosh, financial system collapsing. It would be, you would not be terribly worried about your FX holdings at that point. So, but that's sort of the general idea of sort of how FX is managed from a protocol perspective.
Awesome. So is fETH and xETH going to be like fully transferable? Is there kind of, people going to be able to do additional layers on top of this as the protocol develops? Is how are you guys kind of thinking about that, or is it completely siloed away and just kind of as a derivatives of ETH?
Yeah, so they're both ERC20 tokens, and the intention is for them to be completely composable within any other DeFi protocol that wishes to, utilize them. However, we'll have liquidity pools on Curve and I believe on Balancer as well, and so they'll be available. I think we're even talking about like the minting and redeeming will be on mainnet to ensure decentralization, but we're talking about going to L2s and whatnot and so there'll probably be some bridge liquidity and whatnot.
So basically, yeah, I mean, Grant, Aladdin DAO has a very deep connection with the whole Curve Convex Flax ecosystem, and we have seen that, or you probably may have seen that as well on Concentrator and CLever already. Yeah. So we are going to really use again the connections and this very good and close relationship with them, with the whole ecosystem, to again bootstrap FX. And so there will be Curve, there will be pool on Curve. That will be, let's say, we will plan as well, most likely to get a gauge on it so that we can implement that. It can be directly deposited on Convex. So if the pool is on Convex, that means that it will be able to be brought to Concentrator as well. So the idea of FX is building an additional brick next to Concentrator and CLever. And we have already seen close synergy between CLever and Concentrator. And this is the whole idea of Aladdin DAO. And there are more things in the pipe that we can discover now. But the idea is to to build a full DeFi ecosystem. So yeah, to answer your question, the idea first is to make a product market fit with FX protocol and making sure that people can mint and redeem either on the protocol, but as well, let's say, having a liquidity pool, because that really helps the user experience. And then, of course, we are going to expand the usage, especially of fETH, to different demands.
Yeah, I suppose for the full DAO, you don't really get many protocols that will have such strong roots within the Curve ecosystem that can enable a product like this to its full capability, without even thinking about CLever and Concentrator as well. So, I mean, the idea of the Aladdin ecosystem, that's as more products roll out, it just feels like it's going to increase its own flywheel, tap into Curve, tap into Fract, and just become this kind of giant, kind of all-encompassing kind of DeFi suite of products, which is really, really interesting. I just find that fascinating because a lot of people just build stuff and kind of hope that users will come and they hope like the composability will come, but really feels like everything's been extremely thought out. And I'd love to ask, like, how does that kind of process work for Aladdin DAO? Like, how does the ideation phase kind of get brought forward? Is there kind of internal discussions that get proposed to a DAO? Like, how do you make sure you're creating and pursuing the right kind of products as a DAO?
Well,
if you don't mind, Kmets, I will just introduce, let's say, our both involvement, because we just joined the DAO, but basically FX protocol was already an idea, and the white paper was already pre-drafted, let's say. So we were not in the beginning of the discussion, but if you read the white paper, basically, we have few people who are really smart in finance, really smart in crypto, and really smart as well in all the mathematics behind it. And basically, the main idea is, what can we do that is solving a current problem? And FX protocol has been built for that. So it has been built for solving, let's say, the idea of holding your ETH asset for a long-term basis, but bringing more capital efficiency. And instead of minting a USD stablecoin or stablecoin that is pegged to USD, with USDC peg that we all experienced a couple of months ago, and with the tendency of USD to be inflationary, the idea really was to change the behavior and the habit of what is being built as of today. Nobody, I mean, you can see with the amount of projects who are forking liquidity right now. And so fETH is solving that. So you solve, first of all, you are not dependent to a centralized entity first, and then you solve the fact that you are minting let's say, into bracket, stable asset, a floating asset, but which is deflationary. I mean, I was just going this morning to Ultrasound Money website, and basically since the merge, ETH has a deflation rate of approximately 1% per year. I mean, I don't know the inflation rate of USD, but I guess it's maybe 5 to 6%, and it will go on and go on for sure. So this is the first thing that fETH is solving. On the other side, xETH, this is very true what you were saying, Grant, is that if you want to trade on perps, trying to calculate your real fees is a nightmare. You have funding rate, you have opening fees, you have stop loss, order limit fees, etc. And here you have a very simple tool where you can leverage your position with one fee, without being able to monitor your position on a daily basis, because the risk of liquidation is, let's say, it's brought back to the protocol itself with all the risk modules that Kmet described earlier. So I think to go back to your question, the origin of the creation of FX was what can we solve and what has not been yet built into the market. This is FX.
Impressive.
Yeah, and just to kind of dovetail on that, like basically the products that Aladdin DAO builds, that basically the DAO needs them. You know, it's to solve the problem that they're experiencing right now, like Subli said. And so with FX, it was basically the USDC depeg in March 13th. It was like, oh man, we've got to pay bills, and USDC is now 88 cents on the dollar. This is a bummer. And the only good alternative was liquidity, right? LUSD, but that's expensive, you know. And is there enough liquidity to be able to swap your, you know, whatever your stables are into LUSD? And so LUSD doesn't they don't bribe on Curve. They're not like incentivizing liquidity through that manner. They have their chicken bonds and whatnot and BLUSD, but they're not out there like Frax, you know, where they're just like they're just bribing their tails off. And so, you know, they don't have like $1 billion of liquidity out there. And so you're like, okay, well, there needs to be something that's scalable, that's you know, that basically is going to hold its value in the crypto economy, that's doesn't have these tail risks of like centralized stuff. And so that's where that comes from. And you know, it's sort of like, you know, the same thing was sort of like CLever, where, you know, you get the auto compounding, you get like you can borrow on your rewards up front. It's sort of all these things that like sort of like solve these problems. And so like Subli was saying, like that's all it is like you encounter a problem, you try to come up with a novel solution, and that's basically what Aladdin DAO is doing. That's sort of like their core ethos, is making DeFi kind of like easier and helpful for everyone.
Yeah, that's awesome, because there's definitely been, obviously don't need to point out the issues with USDC and even USDT. If you check, not even just on the depegging side, it's like the blacklisting addresses is only ever going to increase. And then you've got to look at the CDP solutions that are available on the market, where to kind of bootstrap and increase stability, they're ever increasingly going towards backing with decentralized stablecoins and effectively just looking like a wrapper, which is kind of no use to anyone. So I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on scalability of fETH and like how that can kind of get over this hurdle that we're currently in. With the best kind of solution at the minute is a CDP, in my opinion. But I'd love to kind of pick your brains on how fETH could potentially add on that additional level of scale, which is what kind of hinders CDPs currently.
I think the main idea of FX compared to a CDP is that what you mint is the same underlying token as your collateral, if I can say collateral. So basically, it's all dependent on ETH. I mean, DeFi is already, let's say, as an underlying risk or smart contract. But if you can't trust, let's say, the largest stablecoin out there, what can you do? I mean, how can you scale into billion of liquidity if even USDC has a risk of depeg? I mean, nobody is going to enter the market. I mean, no hedge fund, no institutions are going to go there because it's too volatile. I mean, there is smart contract underlying risk, but then, I mean, the volatility of the market and the uncertainty of even the too big to fail asset can depeg or can, let's say, die, even as we've seen with Luna. So the idea of depositing ETH and meeting your own stable coin that is calculated based on the underlying ETH asset is really smart. Because if you are bullish on ETH, and if you are, let's say, a DAO and you have a large holding of ETH for a very long term, for a couple of years or maybe more, basically what you want to try to make more with the same capital that you have. So what you are looking for, capital efficient solutions. And if you mint a stablecoin, then you have the risk of liquidation, you have the risk of scalability, you have the risk of unpeg even for centralized assets. So yeah, I mean, bringing fETH onto the market, I think, is answering what we are all facing as a problem, and nobody yet thought about that solution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think just to kind of dovetail on that a little bit, in terms of sort of its scalability. So let's just get back to sort of the basics of stablecoins, where you with the trilemma, right? You have peg, scalability, or oh gosh, what is it?
Censorship.
Decentralization.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Censorship.
Decentralization.
It's scalability. I think it's actually oh gosh, I can't believe it.
Decentralization or censorships, like
There you go, decentralization. Yeah. So you can basically within that, every stable coin is in some way a compromise on that, right? With f of x, and it's sort of the what the design that we've chosen here to launch with. We've basically have chosen ETH as the native asset, so you get the maximum decentralization, or you inherit that, and then you also get the scalability, because essentially the minting of xETH or fETH, there's that small fee, but other than that, it basically translates into sort of a complete one for one almost, in terms of its value, the native asset value. Um, and so where we've chosen to sort of kind of like leave that behind is with the peg. Now, with the design of the protocol, you could absolutely make some sort of 0.01 beta low volatility asset. You could definitely make FUSD, and there's nothing to stop us from doing that in the future. But with fETH, basically what this does is, like, if you look at it like Frax, we basically have made FPI first. And so what this does is it basically is basically our way of saying, okay, we are getting a small amount of exposure to the price movement of ETH, but this allows us to basically inherit the qualities of the Ethereum ecosystem, instead of if when we peg to the US dollar, you're essentially saying, okay, well, we're going to inherit the decisions and monetary policy and fiscal policy of the United States government, and so when you our belief, and most people that are in DeFi basically view Ethereum as a very bullish ecosystem, asset, economy, and so by leaving that 0.1, that little bit of wiggle room in there, it allows for this value of your stable asset to not leak value to inflation, and so that's sort of like that's sort of the idea and the thinking behind the 0.1 value for the beta, and so because of this, it makes the protocol very scalable. I mean, we'll do all the good things you're supposed to do for stablecoin and introducing liquidity into DeFi ecosystem, and that'll be starting up liquidity pools, incentivizing them through VE CRV votes, or straight up bribes, or utilizing convex that we have. So that's the easiest way to scale your stablecoins, is basically to incentivize people to utilize it, and we'll absolutely do that as well. If you look at our tokenomics, I think we have like 49% of our all FX tokens are basically geared towards liquidity mining. So if folks are kind of despondent about the our token offering and how quickly those went out, the easiest way to get FX tokens is through the liquidity pools or participating in our booster programs.
There you go. Subli, you got a dash?
No, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, as I told you, I have unfortunately another appointment in a couple of minutes, so I will have to leave, unfortunately. But you're free to continue with Kmets if you want to cover other things. The only thing that I wanted to add together to top up what Kmet was saying is that we are going to start our booster program, which is open for everyone. It's basically you contribute to the project by delivering content in any language that you wish. And you just have to post the content on our Discord, on Aladdin DAO Discord, on the FX protocol channel. And there will be a monthly airdrop of FX token. And this is really the best way to earn, let's say, to earn something, first of all, and as well to get into our community and learn what we're doing and what's the plan in the coming future.
Yeah, I'll add to that as someone who's trying to run a budding media company. If you don't understand something and you try and put it down into words, I guarantee it's a really good growth hacking technique. If you think you understand something, try put it onto the paper. Then you'll realize if you understand it or not.
Yeah.
So I definitely give that a go if anyone's wanting to kind of learn and just kind of churn out some content.
100%, 100%.
Guys, I have to go. So if you, I leave you to the two of you. Thanks, Grant, for meeting us. It was a really great interview that you did, and we hope that we will come back soon once we will have more news.
As I say, open invite, and thanks for jumping on. And Kmet, I've just got one real question, one final question, so I can get my head around this novel product. But Subli, if you need to jump off, just feel free.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
So let's say for someone let's say we're coming into an expected period of volatility in the market, or a user or a trader's expecting a period of volatility coming up. I don't know, it might be an external catalyst where they think price of ETH might potentially dip. So what happens there? So ideal strategy would be to mint fETH, so you're kind of reducing your kind of downside volatility there. But what is the incentive for people to effectively mint xETH and take the other side of that, where they're going to be gaining leverage, so leverage exposure to what could be potentially, in this hypothetical situation, a volatile time?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, the answer that I would probably give is, the two tokens kind of like complement one another. Obviously you don't want to hold xETH when everything's like going down by 30%, but at the same time, typically in those bear markets, in those situations, you give like pretty big spikes back up as well. And so, I mean, no, not financial advice or whatever, but xETH is basically, you can utilize that as sort of it's basically a position for traders, and so we view sort of the demand for xETH to be kind of like, it's whatever the market bears at the time, and so xETH and fETH, you can own xETH, and then you can sort of hedge it with fETH as well. So it'll be interesting to see sort of the products that people design and build around something like xETH, because I've thought about it myself. I mean, it's like, okay, well, you can't just go completely all in on xETH because you'll get
as we'd like to.
Yeah, exactly. You can't go all in on it because you'll get totally wrecked at some point. But if you're bullish on it, if you're bullish on ETH in the long term, it's actually a good token to have if you're willing to sort of kind of like take on the volatility. And I think that's sort of like the killer app of xETH, in my own personal opinion, is like, you buy some, you get it, you can just like hang on to it, and it's basically just like owning like a high beta token, any sort of like whatever you want to consider, like a smaller DeFi token that essentially is, as ETH goes up in price, it's amplified in terms of it, but it's not going to happen immediately. But it's kind of like whatever the market can imagine, and I think we're kind of like giving everybody some tools, and just kind of like, let us know what you can dream up. We'd love to see what it is, and so we're kind of like very excited to put it out there and see what people will do. I think it's going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's going to be so many interesting strategies. I can imagine the threads now around some particular user who might have like absolutely nailed it going into some kind of volatile time or something like that. It'd be really interesting to see. So if there's a huge demand for xETH, what happens to the leverage of that asset? Does it decrease?
It's all relative to the amount of fETH that gets minted as well. So if fETH stays, sort of at a very stable level, and then like a ton of xETH gets minted, then the leverage on xETH will decrease. But as more fETH gets minted, it's all about that ratio between the two. As more fETH gets minted than does xETH, then the leverage actually increases. And as we said, sort of a stable, kind of like long-term kind of goal that we kind of think is sort of like a healthy leverage ratio, somewhere about like 1.5 to 2 for xETH ultimately. And so I would say that that's like within a reasonable expectation. Once the protocol's up and it's got plenty of liquidity to sort of kind of satisfy folks, and operate kind of like as it's intended. So that's sort of like the expectation.
Nice. Well, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it in action, and we'll probably set one of our writers on a task to try and cover it in as idiot-proof terms as physically possible. So we'll let you know if we have any questions around that. And
absolutely.
Yeah, thanks so much for jumping on. I can imagine it's kind of hectic on your end at the minute, so I really appreciate you joining us. And if there's anything you want people to be kind of aware of, just to kind of wrap it up, please just put in. And if not, we'll leave all the links and everything in the description below.
For sure, yeah. So just in the immediate future, this Thursday, FX protocol is going to go live on testnet, Sepolia. So folks, go ahead and go and find a Sepolia faucet, get some Sepolia ETH, and start minting and redeeming, and let us know what you think on our Discord and post to Twitter. They're welcome to reach out to me directly at KMETS_ on Twitter or on Discord. 2 weeks after that, we'll go live on mainnet. So and then
Nice.
we'll have the second round of our bootstrapping IDO token offering, so people can try to, if you're quick on the buy button, you can participate. So but we'll try to make plenty of opportunities for people to participate, be involved in the community, earn some FX tokens, and hopefully have a great time minting and redeeming fETH and xETH and being a part of the Aladdin DAO community.
There we go. So by the time you're listening to this, anyone, that testnet should be live, so you can go and, as I said, just head to the description. All the links should be there. And Kmet, once again, thanks again, and let us know if you need anything from us, and we're always happy to help projects that are actually building in the right direction and doing really good stuff. So yeah, let us know. Happy to help.
Absolutely. Thanks, Grant. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
All right. Take it easy, everyone. See you next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.